Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome back to the review show where we have a look back at everything that happened last weekend in boxing. This weekend that was Callum Simpson up in Barnsley, Fabio Wardley, Justis Huni in Ipswich, and obviously the undercard to both of those, as well as Nakatani, Abdullah Mason, Jai Opetaia, and there's obviously controversy around Keyshawn Davis as well. Lots to talk about as always, so subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Spotify if you prefer the audio version. Straight into the action. It took about half an hour, but Fabio Wardley, he got the job done against Justis Huni, didn't he?
He was getting his head boxed off, but as people keep saying, they throw in that like old line out. That's heavyweight boxing for you, and that's all you need is that one punch. But I think that's what makes like combat sports especially so entertaining, because like if you're watching like football, for example, and a team are like 6-7-0 down, you're like, God, they can't just score one goal and they've won the game. Whereas with boxing, I don't think did he win one out of the first 10 rounds?
Yeah, it was one round, I think. It's like Andy Clark said in his book, The Knockout, to give a shout out to our good friend Andy Clark. He said, there's no other sport in the world where you can be winning, you can have a perfect 35 minutes and 59 seconds, and it's Fabio Wardley said it himself. He said, you're going to need a great 12 rounds to beat me. I'm going to need one great second. And Huni had 10 great rounds. Fabio Wardley had that one great second, and, you know, before you know it.
I think it's when Huni switched off, though, didn't he? He switched off for a little bit, and then the next thing he knows, he's on the canvas. And, yeah, a great performance. And the thing now is, for me, with Huni, I don't think that ruins his record at all. Because at the end of the day, it's a big knockout loss, yes. But if you watch the fight, he was winning. I gave him round 2, I think, and that was it, Fabio Wardley. And the rest of the rounds were all Justis Huni, and I think there's similar scorecards had it like that. But, yeah, Puncher's Chance, literally, that's what we're called. And, you know, on TikTok, when we talk about, you know, Daniel DeBar's chances against Usyk, and they all say, you literally name the Puncher's Chance. It's the same with Fabio Wardley. He's got that punch. And I was watching it, and I remember when we did the preview for it last week, you're saying exactly what was happening, that Fabio Wardley cannot find that punch. And I was like, Sam has called this unbelievably well. And then come round 10, I'm like, oh, wow, Ben's prediction's right. And, it's just a crazy fight. And Fabio Wardley, fair play. Wow.
Yeah, me and Ben actually predicted the identical fight. Just all you said was he would find that one shot, and I said he wouldn't find that one shot. And I think you said it kind of comes down to he switched off for a moment, and I think, you know, you can say if he'd had a full camp, if he'd had this, that and the other, but also it's immensely difficult to find 12 perfect rounds against a man. Yeah. And people will say Fabio Wardley got outboxed, Fabio Wardley got beaten, Fabio da-da-da-da. But ultimately, Wardley's game plan, I think, was to find that one shot. It wasn't ever to beat Huni over all of the rounds. And working under Ben Davison, as we know they do, they analyse their opponents as much as they can, and they find their weaknesses. And if you watch the sort of 15, 20 seconds leading up to that knockout, Huni throws the same shot 3 times. It's a jab, and he kind of ducks down into it, and he overreaches for it, and he paws at it a little bit, and it's a bit of a poor jab. And Wardley, the first 2 times, moves his head off the centre line, throws out a jab, head off the centre line, throws out a jab, and then the third time, exactly the same thing. The head goes off the centre line, so he's expecting a jab, but the right hand comes over the top and knocks him clean out. People are suggesting that it was a Huni masterclass and Wardley found a lucky shot. He found a great shot, I think. I think he set that one up, and that was always the plan.
I think he was built up in the corner, though, weren't he, in between that round 9 and round 10, where they were going, you need the knockout. And I think when you tell a heavyweight, especially Fabio Wardley, you knows he's got that one punch that can switch your lights off, and he did it, and it's just unbelievable. And for Huni, you know, like you said, short notice and all that. What was it, 5-6 weeks notice?
It was 5 weeks, I believe.
It is short notice in terms of high-class boxing.
It's not a full camp.
It's not a full camp.
But it's like a 3/4 camp.
Yeah. But for him to come there and do that, and in a way that's his sort of announcing himself on the world stage. For a lot of people who don't really follow boxing, that's probably the first time they've seen Justis Huni fight, and they probably want to see more of him now after that performance. But like, was it a lucky shot? You can make the argument it was.
I think it was like you said, they've done the same with the Fraser Clark fight.
Yeah.
They showed the little clip before the fight where they said he's going to make this movement. You just need to time it. Like you said, you could see it like sort of in slow motion. They both come off that sort of centre line together. He'd obviously seen it, the first few punches that were coming at him, and he just timed that punch. When you land a punch as clean as that, in a way, it's because he planned it so well and seen it come in.
It's like we saw with AJ and Ngannou. We literally watched AJ and Ben Davison set up that shot in the dressing room time after time, practicing it, getting it sharp so that when it came about, your reflexes take over and you land it. And I think that's what they did. I think it does come back to kind of what I said last week, the frustrations around Fabio Wardley of, he was this white-collar fighter. He was a white-collar fighter when he was 22, 23.
How many times was that mentioned?
How many? He's had like 12 professional fights now.
3 white-collar fights as well.
But he is literally knocking on the door of being a world.
But that's next.
It's the equivalent of saying that Ben Whittaker's an amateur boxer.
Yeah.
Because he's had 11 pro fights there or thereabouts and an amateur career before it. He's had a couple white-collar fights before it, but he's 12 fight professional. And
he's beaten people that...
And he's one of the best heavyweights in the world based off of who he's beat and how he's beat them. He's in the conversation.
Is there an argument now to make Fabio Wardley the second best British heavyweight at the moment?
No.
Or do you still think Anthony Joshua holds that? Because I'm getting... Tyson Fury, for me, is retired. So if you ignore that, it's Dubois,
Are we going back to Lawrence Okoli? Are we bringing this one in?
The thing is with Fabio Wardley is he's got one, in terms of punch power, he's one of the best. Time. But technically... Like we seen with Justis Huni outboxed him completely. It was just he got caught with that punch. Fabio Wardley is not going to outbox any elite heavyweights, but if he finds that punch and can set that punch up like he has done in his last few fights, that's where he wins the fight. That's the difference.
It goes back to like we were talking about the Jarrell Miller fight. I actually think that would have been a worse fight for Fabio Wardley based off of that performance because he's not getting Miller out of there, is he? And he didn't show the...
Miller wouldn't even have got there anyway. So.
Wardley didn't show the quality over the rounds to suggest that he would have been able to win 7 of those 12 rounds against Jarrell Miller. And I think he possibly would have done, but it probably would have been a more awkward fight.
Can you imagine if
he's not knocking out Jarrell Miller.
Imagine if he had that performance, though, against Jarrell Miller. Yeah. Imagine the talking... That we'll probably be talking... Fabio Wardley, world title challenger. I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. But he wasn't. It was Justis Huni.
I like what Frank Warren said as well afterwards. He compared him to Wilder. Deontay Wilder became a heavyweight champion of the world because he had that one punch. He didn't have the best boxing ability. He just had that one punch that can switch your light out.
And he always knew he could find it.
Exactly.
As well.
And I feel like Fabio Wardley's got that same... in the back of his head, he's like, well, I'm losing this fight, but I know I can get that one shot. And just... For him now... You look at the heavyweight division now, obviously you got that massive fight with Sam's new favourite fighter. I don't know if you can see it, but he's got Daniel Dynamite Dubois' t-shirt on. Yeah, they don't pay us yet.
No,
so
sorry.
Yeah, cover that up. No, but that fight is going to, I think, once that's done and all, I think all the belts are going to fragment. And Fabio Wardley's he's knocking on the door, ain't
They could play it very smart where if they wait until after that undisputed fight is done, wait for the belts to split apart and they can give him a fight which gives him a good opportunity.
That's a great fight.
Because if you get him and Kubrat Pulev fighting for the WBA title, if it becomes vacant, you really fancy Fabio Wardley and seeing him become a world champion would be pretty special.
Pulev's got enough miles on the clock that you'd expect a good shot does what a good shot does.
And he's got a tough fight coming up as well, hasn't he, against Michael Hunter? On bloody Don King's
or you
card
could have Wardley and Michael Hunter, which I think's a harder fight for Wardley, but still one you'd prefer him in compared to having to fight Dubois or Usyk or whatever.
Yeah, I think
give him more of a chance, don't you?
Yeah, it's difficult, but with this one, the first thing, has Wardley's stock risen from this, or has it kind of stayed where it was? Do you think?
I don't know. I think it's risen slightly.
But
it's a big moment.
It is, but the nature of the performance kind of...
But like, I think if you're a boxing fan, like we said last week, you would have expected him to be... That's how we expected him to win the fight.
We called the fight,
We never would have... We were never going to sit here and say Fabio Wardley's going to win on points or going to outbox him.
Yeah, you would never say that, would you?
Yeah.
No, I said close points decision.
Yeah, the win was going to come from that big shot. And so... because people were expecting it, and the fact that he managed to go and get it, especially being against it as well, he was like, it was get that shot or bust really. So to have the sort of mental strength to keep going, knowing you've got 9 minutes left or your shot is done, to find that composure to in that moment to land that shot, I think not many heavyweights would pull it off.
Yeah, it's really impressive. It's genuinely impressive. And the one last thing I thought we needed to talk about this fight before we talk about the plethora of other stuff we've got to talk about in this episode is that 9-second count. Everyone's been talking about it. I want to. So for those of you, if everyone isn't on Twitter for a great reason, it's not a nice place. But he got up. Huni was on his feet before the count of 10, and the ref waved it. Now, obviously, that's to the ref's discretion. We don't know what the ref saw in Huni's eyes at that moment that made him lead to that decision. It was a quick count as well, I will say, and I think for me, ultimately, it takes away from Huni in terms of giving him a chance to show again, just seeing what he looks like on his feet before calling it. But it also just takes away from what would have almost certainly been the inevitable outcome anyway, which is that Wardley got the stoppage victory. It just takes away from that a touch because people are going, but if you read the replies to every tweet he puts, it's, but 9 seconds, but 9 seconds, but the count. Wardley would have won that fight 99.9 times out of 100 in terms of after the knockdown. But heavyweight boxing, it's that 0.01, isn't it? That's the difficulty.
I was a bit shocked into he waved this, like he was on his feet, so I thought he could have at least give him.
Well, we didn't see it though, did we? Watched it on TV. Him with the referee counting.
No,
they were literally showing Fabio Wardley celebrating.
So they should have marched him back to the ref should have marched him to the corner, got him to come towards him.
He looked,
and then make a decision. And this is what we can't see. I imagine you'd hope that the ref's seen something in that moment that suggests he doesn't need to see any more. And it almost goes back to, like we said with Usyk Fury, that Fury's reputation preceded him and therefore the action wasn't stopped when he was bouncing from pillar to post because they know he recovers from those sorts of things. After Wardley's last fight, what he did to Fraser Clark, there's got to be a bit of the ref's mind thinking, if I let this go on, there could be some serious damage caused, as opposed to if it's against, I'm trying to think of a less heavy-handed heavyweight, you might be more inclined to give Huni that roll of the dice.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but there wasn't any sort of argument from Huni, I didn't think, after the fight. I know they've said that they've put in a complaint now, but that's come after this sort of online backlash, so I think they're looking at it as, we can use this as a bit of an excuse to go, we've been cheated out of, he's got up at the count of 10, he should have been given the chance, but like you said, I think that shot hit him clean. I think if he had allowed him to carry on, I think Wardley would have just jumped on top of him and stopped him anyway, because it was quite a bit, it must have been at least a minute and a half, was it?
1:42, so pretty much half the round.
There's two things here though as well with boxing and fans. They go, when you get knocked down, and in this case the ref waved it off, everyone's like, good decision. But then sometimes we all make the argument of, why did the referee allow him to come back out? You could tell that he weren't all there and all. So I think it's definitely in the back of the referee's mind, ain't it? That if I let this carry on, this could seriously end in a way that is likely to happen, him being knocked out and paramedics are coming in the ring with oxygen.
Yeah, my point is, let's say, role reversal, Fabio Wardley stands up.
If that was in Australia, are you trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say, if Fabio Wardley is on his arse in Ipswich, in Portman Road, on a Queensbury card, gets up between 9 and 10, does the ref wave it, or does he march you back to his corner?
I think he gives
that's the difficulty, is knowing boxing. You can say
the sort of the atmosphere and the thing around it. Obviously, being Fabio Wardley's home show, I think the noise he must have made once he landed that shot and the chaos you could see around ringside might have played a factor a little bit. The ref has gone right. He's won this. Or
just making a rash decision rather than making the active choice of, I'm going to do this because of this, and this. They don't have time to make that thought process. It's a split decision moment.
You need to say, when you watch the video, you literally see the ref, like the shot to him hitting the floor happened so quickly. By the time he looks round, he's already at like 6, 7.
By the time he actually started catches what the ref was saying, he was already on 5 or 6. But
rematch? Would you?
I wouldn't go for a rematch. He's not winning our fight again.
I think he doesn't.
I don't think he finds that shot.
But also,
he can't have
what you've got to remember is, like, although Huni's just been knocked clean out, the miles on the clock for Wardley were far greater from that fight than Huni. Huni, one big shot knocks you out. In terms of damage, is relatively low. In terms of long-term effect, it's those fights where you're taking continuous blows that do the long-term damage. And Fabio Wardley doesn't want to be in fights like that. No. And Justis Huni is going to come into that one a longer camp, knowing what Fabio Wardley is looking for.
He stays out of danger in the second fight to Neba.
It doesn't make sense.
I was really impressed with Huni.
Yeah.
I know he's lost the fight, but I thought that's the best I've seen him box by far. I thought he looked really good, and I know he'll be massively disappointed that he's lost that, but he'll have plenty of other big fights in the future.
I think that's the most important thing for him now is the next time he's in a ring, he needs another big fight. Give him another big fight. Riyadh season card or something like that.
Yeah,
he's something special. There's something definitely there that he's got potential. It's just heavyweight boxing, ain't it? One shot can change it. And
absolutely.
That's why we love the sport.
Without doubt, yeah, he'll come good. Callum Simpson, speaking of coming good, a great fight.
I'm so worried.
A comeback of forms in with the points it would have been at best level after 3-4 rounds because of the knockdowns. But he did what he had to do, didn't he?
Yeah, it was the mental strength he's shown to get through that. What a way to win a European title that is, because he got dropped. What was it, 8 seconds? The first drop. I was like, oh. Yeah, I thought with the first time he got dropped, it was a bit of a stunned knockdown, and he didn't look
knocked off balance,
massively hurt. So I thought he's been caught there. He's got plenty of time. Then you get to the third round, he gets dropped again. Obviously chasing. I think he panicked a bit the first couple of rounds, and he's tried to chase it. But I was like, oh fuck, he's in trouble here now. But the composure and the strength he's shown, and Zucco obviously, I think he sort of broke down the further rounds went. He got tired, but that was from Simpson's pressure. In all fairness, he earned that. So I think that will go down as one of the best wins he'll have in his career. I think.
What did I say last week about this fight?
No idea.
What did I say?
You did say both men will get dropped.
Sleeper.
You did say sleeper,
and I said
but
both
was
men
it sleeper of the weekend?
I thought it was a great fight, and
I thought it was good.
That shot in the first round, he went 3 times, and then the third time he went, bang, he's down. And you can make the argument there, though. He got knocked down. Simpson got back up, obviously weren't hurt from it. And you can make the argument that was a 9-9. But sometimes, as Andy Clark said on commentary, you have to do something very, very special then to make that a 9-9. Otherwise, the judges have already got 10-8 on their scorecards. But talk about atmosphere and all that as well. Barnsley crowd's unbelievable. And I think that's what got Callum Simpson through it in a way. And yeah, that finish in the 10th round, unbelievable. What was it? 3 knockdowns, all uppercuts in the corner as well. Good stoppage. They both went out on Sunday and had a Yorkshire pudding and gravy together, which was great to see. And it's why we love the sport as well, ain't it? Gentleman's sport and all that. And yeah, for Callum Simpson now, unbelievable. Like, where does he go from here and all that? And there's a man on the undercard as well that potentially had his eyes all overlooking his opponent, and we're probably missing out on probably what would have been an unbelievable all-British fight.
We can get onto that a little bit later on. Callum Simpson, like we said, you sort of say there, what's next for Callum Simpson? It's such difficult because obviously you've got Canelo and...
Do you know the annoying thing is, though, in the UK, we can't have a Barnsley show every single month of the year. Like, we can't have him fight now in October and all. That's the annoying bit. He'd probably end up going to Sheffield or something like that, just down the road. But yeah, we went up there last year, didn't we? Barnsley crowd, and this time we couldn't get up there, but just unbelievable. You know, and we compare it to what was happening down in Ipswich with the crowd as well. I mean, the rain had a massive factor in that.
For once, Yorkshire was not let down by this weather.
Imagine, though, if that Barnsley crowd was like for Fabio Wardley in Ipswich. You know, we could have seen a different fight. And yeah, Callum Simpson's there's something special there with boxer, and you touched on it. Is Callum Simpson the most popular boxer that boxer have got? You can make the argument.
Definitely
yes.
the most liked, the most universally liked, because you talk their superstars. Adam Azim didn't come off well out of the back of the Dalton Smith and then the Harlem Eubank.
Well, he should have been
whole situation stuff, and then obviously the issues he's had now with this. Ben Whittaker after the Liam Cameron fight, people rubbed him up. They were rubbed up the wrong way by him, so that didn't work. And then it leaves you with Callum Simpson really is the next big face. In terms of,
but the annoying thing now is though that big fight. We talked a lot. What was it last week as well about fighters overlooking their opponents that they got in front of them and looking ahead to what's to come. Mark Jeffers.
Yeah,
I don't.
Is there an argument
that Hemphill's fucking tough?
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't actually manage to catch up on this fight, so you guys will have to.
I watched it this morning, and it was probably the best. Was it the best fight of the week? You can make the argument it's probably one of the best fights of the weekend.
I thought it was quite close between the two. I had Hemphill winning, I think it was 6 rounds to 4.
96.
But the amount of shots he took on his jaw was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He can take a punch. Well, he's the first fighter I've seen Mark Jeffers come up against. Or we've seen more Mark Jeffers like him. We've seen him cause issues to many fighters. And when he hits you, normally you're done. The amount of big shots he landed on Saturday night, and Hemphill just kept coming at him and outworking him at points. I was so impressed with. But I still think Jeffers and Simpson is the next fight to make for the two of them.
Is it a style? Was it a style mistake then? A matchmaking mistake for Mark Jeffers?
I think they were so similar.
They've heard people online as well, I reckon, Boxer, where they're going, why are you putting Mark Jeffers in with this guy?
I think
he's going to get blown. And
but you could
Boxer the matchmaking might have been off a little bit, and that Hemphill was probably similar level to Jeffers.
Yeah, we
instead
probably
of
haven't
seen
him enough to realise how good he is.
Yeah, but in the sense of what I mean by this is, the last thing you match a puncher up against is someone who's got an unbelievable chin, because you take away their biggest weapon, and maybe they or maybe his opponent hasn't had to show that chin yet in his career. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know him going into it, so I can't.
Well, he's won some titles or something. Andy Clark said he looked tidy. He looked very tidy. Fair play to him. And Mark Jeffers. You can't say you're disappointed because it was a competitive fight. And how many times have we talked about Boxer not putting on competitive fights? That was one of them. And it's just I don't know if Simpson Jeffers next makes sense.
I think it does. I think
Simpson
could do
but Simpson's not going to get a world title fight anytime soon, is he?
Well, he's won the British, Commonwealth and European.
Yeah.
Okay, so he needs.
But is he getting Canelo Alvarez anytime soon?
No.
So Christian and Billy, Diego Pacheco. There's fighters already in the wings, waiting for those opportunities. You've obviously got Hamza Shiraz, Edgar Berlanga fighting now, and that's going to put them in a strong position towards a fight like that. Particularly if it's not Berlanga, obviously already had a shot at Canelo. So when you look at it like that,
I'll change what I said then.
A big domestic clash against Mark Jeffers commercially makes a hell of a lot of sense. And if you're not going to get the fights that are career-wise beneficial, then a commercially viable fight is probably the best business.
We saw it with the crowd as well. They were chanting USA, booing Jeffers as well when he was getting announced. I'll change what I said then. Do you favour Callum Simpson more now than what you did beforehand? Like, beforehand you would probably think, in
terms of that as a fight?
That's a decent fight. That's a 50-50.
I still think it's a very close fight.
No, because realistically, like you say, Simpson has proven, albeit he's of that level at least, if not a step above, he can be found with shots. He came rushing, and I think that's off the back of having maybe a couple too easy fights since that Chelly fight.
Is that a worry for Simpson? After seeing the 2 knockdowns that he had, that when he goes through the levels of going for that world title shot, which inevitably he wants, is the worry about
No, because you're not. You fight what's in front of you, don't you?
True.
If you don't fight Mark Jeffers with your chin high in the air, you don't fight Mark Jeffers, in close. You box a different fight. And Jeffers has shown in that fight that he can find the shots he needs to find, and unless you have a serious steel jaw, then you are going to be susceptible. So I think that would still be a great fight. You're talking Mark Jeffers is 20-1. Callum Simpson's 17-18-0,
and the film
is still a good fight.
Jeffers is just waiting, isn't he? And like I said, he's probably been waiting too long, and he's probably been the lack of I said it downstairs before we filmed. I said, perhaps Jeffers in this camp, in a way, is getting a little bit fed up because he's not getting the opportunities. And perhaps there could be a little bit of, he's turning up to training and he's like, well, I haven't got what I want. Maybe there's like, the motivation may not be there. I don't know. And I'm not saying he isn't motivated. But for fighters now, you know, we talk to so many boxers and they say, no, I'm getting fed up of fighting people I know I'm going to beat. I want a challenge. And potentially Mark Jeffers didn't know the threat, what was coming towards him in Hemphill. And you just got to take it out after Hemphill. Don't do that again. That you did last week. Yeah. But no, great performance. And if you haven't watched it, go and watch it because it was a hell of a fight. There was a hell of a fight in the crowd as well. So,
yeah, I'm sure there always is. Yeah, there always
Jeffers
is.
won't get a bigger opportunity now though than a Simpson fight.
No, but at the end of the same management.
They are. Yeah, that's the difficulty with this whole situation, and I imagine probably leads more so to Jeffers' frustration than anything because. You know, the same people that are giving Simpson the opportunities are the same ones that aren't getting him them. So, you know, that in itself is a frustration.
One thing that we don't know as well, talking about Callum Simpson's next fight, is where it's going to be. Sky Sports, no longer with Boxer.
I think what we'll probably have to do is talk about the other fights because we've got so much to cover, and then we can see where we get to
how
the
long
end. Because again, a big kind of fight talk, Keyshawn Davis completely messes up what should have been a pretty easy fight, what should have been a fight in his hometown, a chance to defend his belt, this, that and the other, all great stuff. But he's tried to be Ryan Garcia. He thinks he's come in overweight. He hasn't really tried to make weight. And, you know, you can't be.
I was so shocked when I seen it 'cause it just looks like he completely lacked professionalism.
Oh, and yeah. Scale.
Speaking after it, he was like, there was no chance I was going to make the weight. Why organise the fight then? Why waste everyone's time? And then the whole situation with his brother afterwards, his brother loses his fight by a split decision, they jump another fight. It's a
fight that his brother lost to as well.
Yeah, exactly.
There has to be a ban coming in there, surely.
You'd imagine so. It's just...
Obviously, they have to investigate it. But Keyshawn Davis, what was it, 4 pounds over? And you literally compare... It's literally Ryan Garcia last year against Haney. He doesn't care. And he's just expecting his opponent to just take the fight and carry on. And fair play to... what was it?
De Los Santos, Edwin De Los Santos.
Fair play to him for saying, no, I'm not fighting you. You're 4 pounds over.
Yeah, and I believe he got his full purse as well, De Los Santos. So he's come out good from it. But is there an argument to be said that the slap of the wrist that Ryan Garcia got has, in turn, it's kind of made it okay, isn't it, really? Because Keyshawn Davis is fighting, twice a year? So if you get a year ban and you've missed a fight,
he's one of those fighters as well in America where you're looking at the next sort of stars. He's one of them. And he's just done that. Yeah. And you're like...
Yeah, that's why I'm confused. He's been on such a good trajectory. Everyone was getting behind him and thinking, right, he's one of the ones to watch.
After Barinchik, you're like, happy, look at this. This guy's something really, really good. And he's let himself down big time there, I think, Keyshawn Davis.
I think so, absolutely. And obviously Abdullah Mason stepped up, main evented the card instead. Got a pretty comfortable victory. Yeah. Fair play to him. There's not a huge amount to say. He's quality. Your prospect of the year. Roll that old joke.
What was he now? 20-0 or something? Probably?
Yeah, 19. I think it is 19-0.
He's something special though. He's one of the fighters.
At this rate, his fight's going to overtake his age before he turns like 22, 23. He's going to be.
That's crazy though, isn't it? That he's 22, 23 and he's got so many fights.
I think he's even younger than that, but he's
main eventing and all that.
He's a quality operator, and he's now got the WBO like Northern America title and the.
He's someone like
the North American title, so he's going to be looking at world stage now. They've done enough building. They're going to start giving him the kind of tests. You know, he's sort of at that like Moses Itauma kind of crossroads where you know he's too good for domestic. Where's he going now? How quickly do you push him? So that'll be really interesting to keep an eye on. Another man who's looking for a nice little step up, and it isn't coming just yet. Jai Opetaia does it again. Probably the most spiteful, violent, horrible man to be in the ring with. And it's Zerda Ramirez or Badu Jack next for him. And, you know, when? As soon as possible.
Yeah. Him and Zerda will be a brilliant fight. Like you said, it was so spiteful. That shot to finish it. Like, you forgot the name of the guy who was fighting, but...
Sequoia?
It's just when you could see the wince as soon as he was caught with that shot, and he was like, yeah, I'm done. But
He could have got up as well, and he was like, "Nah, right, I don't want another shot."
Yeah. Normally you go, oh, he quit. I don't.
No.
You mate. Fair enough.
Yeah, you're like, I understand. You know?
I'm with you. I feel your pain.
But Opetaia and Zurdo Ramirez be such a good fight.
Do you try and get hold of that WBC first?
Is
with one of them.
Badu Jack's
anywhere near them.
Badu Jack's having a rematch, though, ain't he? Against his last opponent. I can't remember his
I
name.
don't know what the WBC. How Badu Jack still has his claws on his world title? He's mental.
That fight, though, the WBC had 2 champions. Right. Both of them were claiming that they were the WBC cruiserweight champion in that fight.
And Badu Jack had held the title for like 4 years without a fight.
Yeah. And the other guy didn't fight in 3 years. So
it's mental. Just because obviously it makes more sense as an undisputed title fight between Zurdo and Opetaia, even though you imagine whoever would win that fight is going to comfortably get their hands on the WBC, however that needs to happen.
The one thing I like about Jai Opetaia as well, obviously he knew he was levels above Sequeira on the weekend, how patient he was with his work. He knew that the shot was going to come, and he's probably using these fights as well as just keeping warm and remaining active, because, what was it now, June 28th Ramirez is fighting, and that's probably the only fight that I'm interested in on that day, on that Jake Paul Chavez Jr. undercard.
Yeah.
So he's going to be interested in that fight. I think that's a great fight for the cruiserweight division.
And it screams Riyadh season, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, Jai Opetaia is the Ring Magazine champion, and Zurdo Ramirez having fought in Riyadh already. It just it reeks of that filthy Saudi money.
I tell you what I'd like to see though is Chris Billum-Smith and Badu Jack.
For the WBC, you'd have to back Chris Billum-Smith in that fight.
And then you can do Chris Billum-Smith and Opetaia.
Oh, Ben.
I know.
Promoter Ben's Ben.
I like it, but
He's been
it's
retired the
it's
last
tough.
couple of
It's
weeks.
a tough old fight for Billum-Smith, but you get Billum-Smith third or Opetaia.
Yeah, I suppose.
You've got that trio sort of tied up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're probably right. To circle back around to some of the other undercard fights we've missed en route. Pearce O'Leary, Liam Dillon.
Great fight.
Good fight.
Really good performance from Pearce O'Leary.
Pearce O'Leary, yeah. I thought the cards were surprisingly close on the judges. I had them a little bit wider than that. 115, 113, 116, 112, 117, 112.
117, 112. Sorry.
I had it a little bit wider than the 115, 113. I didn't think it was anywhere near a round in it fight. Didn't have it quite as wide as Carl Frampton with the, what was it? 11-1.
He has got
had
a
it
bit
as.
of bias.
He does. But also, I don't think anything's changed. You know, Pearce O'Leary I still rate really highly. Liam Dillon I still think is tough enough, awkward enough, clever enough to cause anyone a degree of issue. But you know, now with the European, Pearce O'Leary puts himself in a pretty strong spot to sort of kick on forwards, doesn't he?
Yeah, what options has he got there in terms
He's up at the super lightweight division, so
it's a tough old division.
It's a really difficult division. You've obviously got Dalton Smith waiting in the wings with the WBC silver. He's got the WBC international, Pearce O'Leary.
Well, you've got this weekend as well, haven't you? Richardson, Hitchens.
You've got Richardson, Hitchens, Cambosos for the IBF.
Puelo.
You've got,
Rafferty. Jack Rafferty would be a hell of a fight for him.
Yeah, it would be, but I just don't know.
The 2 Queensbury boys.
It can't be for the British either. Because Pearce O'Leary's Irish, so you lose that sell. It's a difficult fight. He's in that awkward crossroads now where I think what's probably going to be best for him is just a big old punt at something quite big. Get the payday that comes with it, a chance to sort of test yourself up at world level, and if you fall short, then, you know, how much improvement is he going to do between now and then that's going to prepare him for that? I'm not too sure. I think he's been in enough difficult, awkward fights that, you know, he's got the better of, that he probably is ready for that kind of leap of faith, so to speak.
Yeah, I suppose it comes a time in most people's career, especially when they're in and around those sort of fights, you've got to take that leap at one point, you know, especially with some fighters will tend to have less of an opportunity to have a big fight. So when it does come up, I think you've just got to grasp it with both hands and just go for it.
Steve Claggett, the one who went the full distance with obviously lost probably every single round in that fight, but he's someone that's in the top 15.
I was going to say, it's a good sort of periphery test. It's just whether or not you can, if it makes sense, just money-wise, pay Steve Claggett to come over to, you know, the York Hall or wherever it's going to be with Pearce O'Leary. You know,
well, you'd hope they would do something in Ireland, though, wouldn't you?
But I don't think he's a main eventer. I don't think he comes with that big support, unfortunately.
Kakachi's Northern Irish, isn't he? So you can't. You can have him on that. Yeah.
You can.
It doesn't make
a huge amount of sense. It's difficult. Lewis Richardson made his debut on this one as well. Was
good,
adequate, but I wasn't impressed.
It was, yeah,
as expected. I think is what I came out of it was he's still got his sort of Olympian, sort of amateur style where you want a little bit like you want him to sit down on his shots a little bit more, and he's not really. But for your professional debut, to win every single round, that's what you want, ain't it? And everyone would love a knockout in your professional debut, wouldn't you? But
I think when you look at, and obviously you're talking guys that are less suited maybe to the amateur ranks, like guys like Taylor Bevan that Lewis Richardson obviously pipped to the Olympics. Taylor Bevan has adapted to the professional ranks exceptionally. You know, Andy Cruz was an amateur through and through, and he knows he's a great boxer. So all you actually have to work on is adapting to that professional style. And I just don't think we saw even an ounce of attempt to sit down on shots. There was, times where he had him. He looked unbelievably quick, unbelievably sharp, brilliant ring IQ, great awareness, all of this stuff. But he had the guy up against the ropes and he's putting 6 or 7 shots in, and they're not, but none of them are actually hurting. It's almost like he's
a journeyman's dream, ain't he?
Well, yeah. He's a good payday.
Yeah,
but
as a clip.
I don't think it's necessarily concerning, but I would like to see a greater emphasis towards.
You can't go off a professional debut, can you?
The worry is, though, obviously with the Olympic background, you've always got that sense. We see it with all the other, especially British Olympians. I think pressure put on them that they'd expected to do a certain amount. I don't think he's ever going to be a world beater. But
do we put too much emphasis on our Olympians to be great? And the actuality is that they will probably be British level, because at one point they were considered the best in Britain, obviously, to be an Olympian. But actually, beyond that,
like, how many of the British Olympic fighters have we seen over the last 12 years that have gone on to do a huge amount, other than AJ?
Tasha Jonas, Josh Taylor,
Lauren Price,
Lee Selby,
12 years,
Galalia Fai. Yeah, that was London 2012. You're talking 13 years, give or take a year. Yeah. So you're looking at sort of there or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's a mix in it, like support.
Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of names in there that we all forgotten by now, because they've come and gone and they haven't. But Joe Joyce probably didn't deliver to the degree we expected him
Fraser
to.
Clark,
even
though he was later on. He spent a lot of time in the amateurs.
Hasn't necessarily delivered. Tony Yoka, people like that, haven't necessarily delivered to the degree you expect them to.
If you're an amateur boxer, though, would you think, you're growing up being a boxer and all that in the amateur ranks, what age do you go, right, I'm not going to go to the next Olympics, or I've got aspirations now of turning over to becoming a professional? Is it like, depends, you get to an age, because how old was Fraser Clark when he turned over? Late 20s, early 30s?
Late 20s, 28, 29, I think.
So, for me, that's a little bit too late.
But it's all timing wise, because that's the problem with the Olympics. It comes every 4 years.
Yeah.
But also with Fraser Clark, he only took up boxing in 2012 after watching the Olympics.
Yeah, so he was later to it.
He was a security guard as well, wasn't
So
he?
but you look at, so let's say you turn, I don't know, 19, 20. You turn 19, let's say, when the Olympics is hit. You've had a year worth of senior amateur boxing, so you're probably not going to be looking at the Olympics team. Yeah. You're then going to be 23 by the time the next Olympics comes round. So you're now in your mid-20s by the time you're turning over pro. But actually that was your first shot at whereas other people get lucky and the Olympics falls when they're 20. They've had 2-3 years of senior, they're good, they fall through. Yeah. So it's difficult. Or you've got people
like... It's a sense of timing, and also some people will have the ambition to... Some people look at the Olympics as the final... Yeah, they want to get... Like Lauren Price has spoke about it, she wanted that gold medal. It just happens that she's also been good enough to...
But we asked her the question, didn't we?
Which is better,
if you win this world title, does that trump what you did in Tokyo? And she said no.
Yeah.
And, well, the other thing as well is, the Olympics about not having boxing there. Obviously, we're having it in LA now, thankfully. But imagine if they get rid of that. You know, we're going to have... I doubt they'll do it, but just imagine if they did. There'll be so many more fighters potentially at that point in their careers where they're thinking, well, how many more world championships do I have to go to? How many more European championships do I have to win? Why not see what I can do in the pro ranks?
I think it would be catastrophic.
Yeah, massively.
To boxing. You know, you look at, you know, there's no equivalent, really. You know, you get rid of, I don't know, you know, the sort of Sunday league competition. It doesn't affect professional football. But there is you cannot turn over pro without the evidence of some boxing experience. And the most safe, fair, reasonable route in this country is through amateur boxing, through Team GB Boxing, through a GB or England Boxing, you know, associated club. So you get rid of that, and that whole structure that's funded through the Olympics team falls apart, and all the boxing clubs that are already struggling to fund and keep people off the streets and keep people in clubs that then lead to the professional sport, it would fall apart. I don't think you can measure how damaging an effect that would have. Yeah, well, and you look at when, you know, Matchroom and Queensberry sign fighters, they always highlight what they've done in the amateurs and all the Olympics and all of that, and gets you excited. And yeah, when there was talks of LA not even having boxing in it, you're thinking, how? Like, all right, you've got rid of your skateboarding and whatever that dancing was that they were doing, and then there was also talks about getting rid of boxing. You're like, no, they're all those three sports, the other two, are completely different things. Boxing, in a way, is you got your amateurs. When you're growing up, you've got your amateurs and all that, where you fight in your local social clubs and all that. Then you go to an amateur gym, and then you turn professional. That's like the route. But for some boxers, they don't want to make that jump to professional boxing. Yeah, they just want to continuously go there. And one fighter that obviously did have a long amateur career and who retired last week, Vasily Lomachenko, is a prime example of that. 230 fights, was it? One of the best amateur boxers, for me, one of the best boxers in professional boxing as well. And, you know, he's got that amateur pedigree where he's gone, I'm going to do as much as I possibly can here. I think he had like 600 odd amateur fights, which is... I think it was 230 he had wins.
293 and one.
That was it, yeah.
Oh, okay. I read
Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, exactly. The prime examples are there, you know, and if they get rid of that, then some boxers are going to go, well, I'm not a big name, I'm not popular, and we could lose some of the best talent, and that's where the Olympics comes in, where we go, right, we've identified him, he's going to be something very special, and if they get rid of that, then we lose it. We haven't, exactly.
We're good. Triple G, Gennady Golovkin has come in and saved the day like Superman. We've actually gone pretty long on this one, so we'll slowly wrap it up, but quickly. August 16th in Saudi Arabia, we're rumoured to have Moses Itauma, Dillian White, Nick Ball, Sam Goodman, Ray Ford, Anto Kachachi. We'll take it in turns to talk about one fight each while we wrap up. So Ben,
British triple.
Well, which one are you going for?
Moses Itauma.
Oh, okay.
First round.
Bugger.
Knockout.
That was a fight, yeah.
I wasn't asking for a prediction. I was just talking about it. Is that your preview? Is it?
That is my preview. No, I think it's going to be built up as Moses Itauma's test, and we do love Dillian White. He's a tough character. He's going to try and show the best of his ability and be as tough as he can. But I think it'd be another very good performance from Moses Itauma, but I'm looking forward to it. It looks like they're putting a nice little card together.
Is it a natural step up for Itauma, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose so. I think it's difficult now because I feel with Queensberry and Frank Warren, they don't want to rush him too much because there's still a lot going on in sort of the upper echelons of the heavyweight division. You know, you've got the undisputed fight that will be just before that, but then you've also got Parker, Carvell, whoever else are sort of still knocking about. So, and Itauma's still young and he's got plenty of time before he'll have another 5-10 years fighting world title fights. So there's no necessarily a need to rush him. So yeah, I think it's a smart enough move, smart enough play from Queensberry, and it's another good name on the record, and a name that most people know, especially in Britain, will know Dillian White. Would have seen him over the years, so to watch Moses Itauma more than likely beat him. It'll just be like, oh, this guy's the real deal.
It is a step up, isn't it? It makes sense. You know, if every fight's a little step up, it makes sense. And I would argue, on balance, Dillian Whyte's probably going to be the toughest test of his career. Whether it'll be enough of a test, again, like you said, probably not. But it makes sense.
Within 5, Itauma.
Yeah. Next up for you, which one do you want? Rayford?
Rayford, Cacace. I think he's got fireworks written all over it. I think, well, what was it? Last week we had Sugar Nunes fighting, and I said that fight, if they've got them pair, Nunes and Ford together, it's a great fight. And if they put Cacace and Nunes together, it's a great fight. But I completely ignored the fact of Ford and Cacace fighting. Queensbury against Matt, yeah. Unbelievable. But come on, boys. That August 16th, that's not the best card on August 16th, is it? Not the best fights on August 16th.
Where are you going with this?
Where am I going with this? Our good friend Willie Gilhaney against another good friend of ours, Carvel Crocker, in an unbelievable fight down in Swansea. You know, we're doing a little bit of promo, you know. Give a massive shout out to them. They deserve it as well. But no, Rayford Cacace's got fireworks. All over it.
As well.
He's also one you look at where you go, Anto Cacace.
Well, we've seen Nick Ball beat Rayford, and I'd argue that Cacace's probably got better boxing technical skill than Nick Ball, and can fight and bang as well as Nick Ball.
He has proper bone rattling power, Cacace. I think he probably is the narrow favourite in that one. But equally, you can't count Rayford out. You know, he did an even more dramatic than Fabio Wardley knockout in a later fight.
That was fight of the year for Rayford last year, wasn't it?
To be interesting to see. And then obviously, like you mentioned, Nick Ball, Sam Goodman. Sam Goodman coming up from super bantamweight off the back of 2 failed fights, or failed to happen fights versus Inoue. Comes in 20-0, unbeaten. Fair pedigree there. Nick Ball, TJ Dehaney, beaten. Was it Ronnie Rios? Beaten. Rayford, beaten
as well.
Ray Vargas should have been beaten.
I was going to say he should be a unified world champion list.
So, you know, it's a good fight for Nick Ball. If it's not another sort of world title holder, it's another world title challenger. Probably the toughest since Ford.
Ford.
Probably since Ford. Be interested to see what Goodman can do at featherweight as opposed to from super bantamweight. We haven't seen him. Obviously, he's had the cuts and whatnot, so you haven't seen him in a little while. That's a good little card coming together, that. I don't mind that at all. I can get behind it.
They're talking about announcing another fight as well. I wonder, what do you think is going to be added?
Is this you saying you think you know it?
No, I genuinely don't.
I would say we are likely...
Richard Riakpo or Lawrence Sicoli?
Maybe, but I think that's probably a domestic fight.
I thought Okoli was going to get the Dillian Whyte fight, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was surprised that Moses Homagori, but...
I think you're
Chisora?
probably...
Chisora's 50th fight?
No, in Saudi Arabia.
They love
screen Saudi Arabia.
They said that one of these fights are the main event.
I believe Itauma's the main event, so it's not going to be a huge fight.
I think it's going to be in that smaller arena as well that they had.
Yeah, probably.
The better BF Bivol and Canelo Skull.
Oh, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to call what would be a fight.
Is it going to be another like Matchroom Queensbury sort of?
I reckon they probably get. I was going to say, I think they'll probably maybe someone like Cordina, that kind of fight will get out.
He signed a 2-fight deal with Matchroom, wasn't he?
And he's sparring again, from what we've seen.
We'll have to take a look, but otherwise, I think that pretty much wraps it up for another episode of the Puncher's Chance. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, give us a little 5-star on Spotify as well if you're listening on there. For our next episode, we're going to be doing our top 10 British pound-for-pound rankings. So possibly some of those names, Nick Ball, Anto Cacace, names that might be making the list. Stick around later in the week for that one. And other than that, thank you all for tuning in for another episode.
The Puncher's Chance. Puncher's Chance Podcast.